'cause I know I got some good friends that live down the street. Got a good-looking woman with her arms round me here in a small...
Good morning, everybody. Let's have one huge round of applause for Dad. The vision that we laid out 48 years ago and we continue to strive for today. Now, luxury is everywhere. When we talk about luxury, I'm not just talking about the homes that we're selling for $10 and $20 and $30 million. I'm talking about the experience that we're delivering to our clients. That experience, it starts with you, it starts with the agents, but we as a company are so uniquely positioned to have all these concierge-like resources that we can deliver to the client to help them with every aspect of their transaction. So whether it's they're starting a search on Raveis.com that's customized to them, or whether we're buying their home from them, or they're a buyer and we're buying that next home for them while they get their mortgage, or whether they're streamlining the whole process by using Raveis Mortgage and Raveis Insurance, we're providing everything that they need. And if we can provide that level of service with an incredible attention to detail, we can get our customers closer to that luxury experience. Our goal is not just to deliver that level of experience to our customers. As Dad said, the agent is the customer. Our goal is to deliver that luxury experience to you. And Dad just pointed out all the things that we're doing to try to make that happen. From a tech perspective, we're doing things like Raveis 365, coming sooner listings so you know it's coming on the market before the rest of the market does. The Raveis automated marketing platform where we're launching listings in seconds through a number of different channels. And our big launch coming this year, Raveis IQ. Raveis IQ is the first in the industry. For the first time ever, your clients, your consumers will have one look into their home's financial picture. One window through which they can see what's the value of my home, what's my mortgage balance, how much equity do I have in my home, what's my interest rate and how does it compare against other rates in the industry today, what's my insurance coverage. The cool part about this, it's all going to be delivered in real time to your clients, and we're going to update them on a quarterly basis of their house's financial position, keeping you relevant always. And these updates that we're sending them, all delivered under your brand and your name. This is Raveis IQ. You'll be hearing more about it this year. We're not just thinking in terms of tech, though. We're not just thinking in terms of resources. We're thinking in terms of the culture of the company, and it's our goal to make sure that we continue to live the statement, the agent is our customer. Our goal is to nurture our relationships and make sure we provide a great place for you to grow your business. You are our customer, and you're who we're here to serve. And you're here who we are. We're trying to provide that luxury experience to you. Let me shift gears real quickly. I'm about to invite three people to the stage to help us understand what a luxury experience means to them and what drives their business. Between these three people, they have marketed and sold some of the finest properties in the world to some of the finest properties in their neighborhood. Please join me in welcoming the CEO of Luxury Portfolio International, Mickey Alam Khan. Sales associate from our Norwell office, Melissa McNamara. From our Back Bay office, luxury property specialist, Colin Sullivan. You're here, Mickey. All right, welcome. So, Mickey, you're the CEO of Luxury Properties International, Luxury Portfolio International. Tell us a little bit about that organization and your role as CEO there.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you all for making it here. This is my very first Raveis conference, and I'm totally impressed. We just had our luxury summit for leading RE a couple of weeks ago, and I was remarking to Ryan and his dad, Bill, that you guys are far better dressed. But thank you so much. So Luxury Portfolio International is a network of about 230 international independent luxury brokerages, of which about 70 are outside the United States and the rest are in the US. And William Raveis happens to be one of our most important members. It is actually the second biggest independent member in our network by gross sales volume. Our network basically helps with everything you need in terms of marketing, intelligence, events, networking, lead referrals, and master classes. So basically, it's like you've got another marketing resource in your pocket. And Raveis is a very outstanding member. Jamie Zadru here runs the luxury marketing program. I don't know where Jamie is, but if she can stand right there. So what we try to do is we try to make sure that our members have access to the best thought, the best marketing to stand out from your competition, because you have a lot of competition. So that's what we do, and we are based in Chicago. I'm personally based in New York.
Well, thank you for joining us today. So what's happening internationally, domestically, in the luxury market?
Great. So again, the last 2 years, as you know, have been quite, depending on where you sit, they've been quite busy. What we are seeing, the top 3 headlines, if you want to take away, is demand will continue to outstrip supply by a ratio of 3 to 1. That's what our research showed us for the next 2 to 3 years. And I'm sure you'll hear from Melissa and Colin. They'll attest to the fact inventory is tight. People are making decisions where they move based on quality of life and political ideology, and just basically being able to work from anywhere, right? I mean, companies have been very relaxed about work from home now. I see in the last 2 years, we basically generated an extra $28 trillion in wealth. $28 trillion. And the number one asset class along with equities is obviously real estate. So you're going to see continued pressure in that market. As long as the equity markets boom, I have to say that you're going to have this continued demand for homes with more space, better amenities, and I don't see that relenting, at least this year. So that's the state of the consumer. The consumer is healthy, which means that you have to work a little harder to make sure you've got to win that listing against your competition. And that's where something like, Raveis' RAMP program or our Luxury Portfolio International products come to play, where you take advantage of what we have to make you stand out when you go to present before a seller and win that listing. So that's where we are in terms of the consumer.
So LPI, just give us a sense of what's the home prices you see on the high end with LPI?
So with Luxury Portfolio, obviously the baseline is $1 million. We do have some exceptions where you have to go down to $750 or $800, because depending on where you live, that is your luxury threshold. But I would say that if you're looking to hold a line, it is $1 million. Now, obviously for us, given that we've got so many different members across the world, I'd say it basically falls between 1 in 5 or 1 in 10, depending on, So it's very difficult for me to say there's an average. But if I had to pinpoint something, it'd be between 3 and 5, if we had to come up with an average number there.
Right. We have folks in this room who have sold 30 million, 40 million, taken listings for over 100 million.
Yes.
Understand it's not everybody in the room. Melissa, your market's a little bit different and probably a little bit more like the majority of the audience here.
Yes,
so,
no $100 million listings for me.
You'll have to speak up.
So my thought is everything should be luxury, right? Every listing that I have, I feel should be treated as a luxury property. So whether it be a $500,000 condo or a $5 million home, I think it's really important that we service our clients and give them that white glove experience, no matter what the price is.
Right. And Colin, how did you enter the luxury market in Boston?
I started going to open houses, I was not working with the clientele that I think I wanted to work with in my mind. And so if I had a Saturday or Sunday and I didn't have a buyer's tour planned, I would actually go to the open houses that were available. I would start learning the inventory, trying to find out, what does $1 million house look like? If I was selling $300,000 or $500,000 homes, I don't know what $1 million kitchen or a bathroom is supposed to look like. So I would start touring those higher priced properties. In Boston, I started touring a lot of high-end condos and mid-rise and high-rise buildings for the people that I thought I wanted to cultivate as clients, and touring those. And I started to feel like if I didn't know about the properties, I could never speak about them, and I could never represent them, and I could never sell them.
So you got there before you did your homework.
I got there before I had
there.
clients that I thought might even be interested. And then I started talking to people casually. Conversations, cocktail parties, dinners, now that we're back to hopefully socializing again. I think if you see something and you get excited about it, you can represent that to a potential client. If you talk about something that you've never seen, it's all hypothetical. But if you say, I've stood on the 21st floor of this building, you should see the views. You should see what this kitchen looks like. If you get excited about it, you can get other people excited about it. And I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in those buildings. I didn't have access to them. I didn't grow up with them. But learning whatever the high-end inventory is in your market is a great way to speak about it and sell it and get other people excited about it.
Can you just elaborate on once you got there, once you started selling those properties?
I don't know if I'm there yet, right?
Well,
I'm trying. I'm still climbing.
How have you built your brand in that category?
I've tried to help. So I work in two markets. My brand is city and suburbs, which is also my initials, so it works well. But I've worked in Wellesley and Weston and suburb markets just outside of Boston, and then when I transferred into the downtown city market, I continued to work with both of those clients, helping one. You hear about the empty nesters all the time, selling the house, moving into a condo, maybe their children or younger people wanting to get into a good suburb, leaving the city and going out to a house that has a yard or a good school system. Working the duality of that, I think, has continued to build my business because I'm not just concentrating on one zip code. I know people specialize in one zip code, so that's great. For me, to build more business, I did a lot of back and forth. Getting into the higher end of that was then telling people about things that didn't exist yet, new projects that were planned, buildings that were 2 or 3 years away. And I know not everybody has a city where there are new construction high-rise buildings being done. So I know that's more of a city-centric conversation. But I think there's always a new development somewhere, wherever you are, whether it's a builder that you drive past a sign and there's a new house that you can learn about. If there's a cul-de-sac being built, ask for access. Ask if somebody's not listing it yet, drive by and call the builder. If it is being listed, call the agent and say, can I tour that house? I might have a client for that. And I think just getting in early, learning as much as you can about it.
Mm-hmm. Mickey, how have you seen some of the things that Colin's talking about? How have you seen some of the agents within your network really excel into that high-end range?
Yeah, so, Ryan, you mentioned how some of your agents sell properties all the way to 100 million. So in our network, we have agents who basically, obviously they're all outliers because one agent sold the Playboy Mansion. And then you've got Chartwell, which is Rupert Murdoch's house now. His son's house, Lachlan's house in Los Angeles. The one thing that, Colin mentioned, inspecting the property, being curious, I think that helps a lot. You also want to do a lot of networking. So the Playboy Mansion, how did he get that lead? He helped another agent a few years prior, and they kept in touch. And he got a tip, and then he went and presented. And typically, when you have a property of that value, you always look to the neighbor first, if the neighbor wants to buy that property. And it's just common sense, right? And so that's one of the things that I recommend top agents do. I asked some of these top agents, I said, what works for you? And the number one thing they talk about is relationships. Being locally entrenched in your communities. You get repeat sales from the same buyer or the seller, right? Because you maintain your relationship with these people. And then I ask them, what about marketing? They say, yes, we do marketing. At the end of the day, you've got to know your market before you get to the marketing. And that is important. Know your market before the marketing. And then you tailor your marketing accordingly. So I'd recommend, it's a very old school philosophy, the black book counts. Start with that book first, and then you build your book of business.
I've seen that. And Melissa, you've done a great job building relationships in your neighborhood. And so tell us about how your experiences and how you're treating your clients is building your brand.
So I feel so honored every time I get that phone call, hey, we're thinking about selling. I don't know if they can hear me or not. Yeah. I truly feel honored when I get that phone call that, we're looking to move and can you come meet with us? And I hold that, I take that so personally. So when I sit with somebody, I will take the time to just listen to what their needs are, listen to, their stresses. I mean, we all know, getting ready to move is very overwhelming and a lot of people are anxious about it. And they just don't know where to begin, right? Mm-hmm. They want to move, but they don't know how. And I think that overwhelms a lot of people, which is probably why we're struggling a little bit with inventory too, because they just don't know how to pull the trigger. So when I meet with my clients, it's important for me to take that stress off their plate and really listen to what they need and be able to execute that and just get it done.
And you do a good job for that one person, and then they tell their neighbor, and they tell their family, and that's how it goes.
And that's how it goes.
I had dinner with Melissa and her husband last night, and Jamie and Jen and some of the team members, and we started discussing, lead generation. So in the old days, if you remember, people, smart agents used to read newspapers, and which page would you turn to? The obituaries, right? Especially in New York. I mean, I remember. I'm 52, so I do remember print. And the fact is, they'd see who passed away, and then make a call to the spouse, because in cities like New York, and it applies, I think, even to Boston and Chicago and other cities, co-ops typically don't allow children to inherit the property. It's either the spouse, and after both the spouses pass, they have to list the property. So they'd make these calls and make a beeline for that particular listing. So I mentioned this to Melissa, and I said, that's how they used to get leads. She said, well, my husband's a funeral director. So talk about it.
That's why your business has expanded so fast.
Business is booming right there.
Yeah. It is true, but unfortunately, he's a true professional, and I'll hear those phone calls. I'll be writing down the addresses of where the removals are, and then I'll pick his brain. He's like, easy, okay, easy, put the brakes. Poor woman just lost her husband. I'm like, I know, but they live in a really nice house. It's a lot for her to maintain.
So we're talking about relationships, and Mickey, I heard you at the Luxury Portfolio International Conference in Las Vegas about a month ago, talking about not inside the real estate industry, but outside the real estate industry, and how different brands are delivering a luxury experience. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yes, so Ryan was referring to our conference that we hosted a few weeks ago in Vegas. And my background is in luxury and publishing. And the one thing that separates luxury, as you pointed out in your introduction, was attention to detail. It's the small little things that count in luxury. For example, when you walk into a Cartier store or an Hermes store, what's the first experience you have? A discreet nod, acknowledgement, and then they back off. Then when you're browsing, they're there, but they're not basically in your face, right? When you request an item, they treat you with the same deference they would as someone who didn't have the money or didn't look like he had the money or she had the money. Because today, you don't know who's rich and who's not. When I walk into a hotel or into a store, they often ask me for directions or help because I'm the only one wearing a tie or a suit. The really affluent are dressed down and they're in sneakers, right? One thing I always advise you to do is look for the small little thing at the edges. You want to make sure that when you take a look at the Cartier handbag, the bag, shopping bag, see the thickness of the cord. See how the ends are glued. Small things like that. That's what attention to detail is. When you buy a Mercedes car and you close the door, there's a satisfying thunk. You know that is trademarked, by the way, and it's patented rather, not trademarked. That noise, that sound, right? It's these small little things. I was at the Wynn Hotel in Vegas. That's where we hosted our conference. Every evening you came back and you found your cords in a tie. So they have these little plastic ties and they bunch your cords so that your wires are not just dangling all over the place. Small things matter. And that's what's important in luxury. Otherwise you're mass. So when you're going the extra mile for that client, it's very noticeable. And I'm sure you have experiences and instances where you can talk to this, but I always say luxury is in the experience, it's not in the product. You see? Because you can have a very expensive product and it may not come across as luxury. It may come across as opulence. What you're aiming for is elegance. And that to me is, and that is the theme of the issue of Luxury Portfolio magazine. And if you see the cover, Jamie has copies outside at her booth, the luxury booth. We are featuring a Palm Beach property. This is the late CZ Guest. She was a very well-known socialite and author. This is her in-laws' house, Villa Artemis. But if you followed her life, she was the epitome of elegance, right? And that's what you want to strive for in the way you present yourself and the way you present the brand you're associated with. I see your new marketing. It's brilliant. It's elegant. And when I see the logo, I can easily see that logo sitting alongside an Hermes or Cartier, Chanel, Louis Vuitton. It's not a real estate logo. It is basically a luxury brand's logo. And that's what you want. You are your brand, and you should be your version of Cartier when you go out there.
Yeah, and consistency in the brand and the details. So Colin or Melissa, how would you translate to that experience with not just your perfect customers, but all customers?
You want to go?
I think what Mickey's alluding to is so great. It's in the details. I know that no matter what the price point is, I try and give whatever client is we're working with the highest level of service. And a lot of times that can mean housekeeping. It's straightening towels and straightening up their kitchen. I'm sure you've all been there. Anyone that's had a listing has walked into a house and you said, I told you it was at 10 o'clock. And you walk in and the place is a mess. Doing the housekeeping things, it's not our favorite thing, but that's part of the luxury experience. If you take on a listing and you say, I'm going to represent the client to the highest level, it may mean straightening a bed or tidying up the kitchen or doing something like that. But I've had people that came home before and said, oh, you rearranged the chairs in the living room and you did this and you did that. Place looks really good. We didn't see it from that angle before. Maybe we'll stay. I don't think we're going to sell.
We love that.
And then you're like, I've just done too good of a job in making their house look better than it did when they left. So be careful. Don't rearrange the furniture too much or make it look too good or they'll cancel the listing. But I think it's the details and making them feel like you care about their house. This is probably their largest asset, which Mickey always talks about. It is where they live. It's where their memories happen. It's their life. It's their children. It's their graduation. It's their holidays, their birthday parties. Treat it with care. Go in and make it look the best that it can. And it doesn't matter if it's $200,000 or if it's some of our illustrious colleagues in Naples and Palm Beach that have $20 million or $100 million properties. We see you.
And I think now more than ever, it's really important that us as agents show our worth. I mean, everybody says, I think I'm just going to put my house on for sale by owner. And I'm like, oh, why would you do this? You have one shot in this incredible market as a seller to list your home and maximize your net profit. Why would you do that? Just because they don't want to pay a commission.
Right.
And I understand it's expensive. So now more than ever, I feel it's so important that we have to show our worth and show our value, and make sure that we're
and the exposure we can bring them.
Oh, absolutely. We had just last week, actually, a Raveis agent called me, and she said to me, she's like, oh my goodness, I thought I was getting this listing. I was so excited about it, but they want to sell for sale by owner. I said, have them call me, or let me go with you. Let's go talk to them. Let me, help you through this, because that is not a good decision. And so the sellers had a price in mind, and they said, we think we can get it. And We talked them through it. They decided to list the house, put it on the market. They had over 8 offers, and they netted over $142,000 beyond what they were willing to take off market.
Amazing.
$142,000.
It's a good story.
It's a great story.
So what are some of the things you're doing in this market?
Working really hard.
Yeah.
Working a lot.
Writing a lot of offers.
Yeah.
Not many that are being accepted, but trying really hard. I think the thing that I'm looking for, and as we talk about luxury, one of the things that I think is important that I've learned recently in the past couple years is starting to project forward. Don't think about what that next listing is or that next buyer is that you're taking out this upcoming weekend. Look into the future. Look into 2023. Is there something that you can do to start now? Is there a new cul-de-sac that's being built? Is there a new tear down? Is there a building that you can go tour? Start to get people interested in that may take a year to be finished or be completed. That's what I've started to do because my business is not immediate right now. There's so many things up in the air and there's so many buyers scrambling to get something.
Well, so to your point, there are so many buyers scrambling to get home. So what I think is really important is networking. Networking with our fellow colleagues and agents and saying, hey, listen, I have this beautiful home and they do want to sell, but they don't know where they're going to go.
Right.
So I find it's my job to network with other agents like yourselves and say, what do you have coming on? We have to communicate with each other because that's how we're going to make the matches, right? Say, perfect. You know, their client might be, their home might be a fit for my client and vice versa. So you have to get creative and you have to just work really hard at getting that inventory so we can get things moving.
Right. I want to piggyback on what both Colin and Melissa said. Talk about networking. So luxury portfolio, obviously we encourage referrals, right? So last year, I hope I'm allowed to say this, but anyways, don't tell anyone. So last year, we generated 18,000 referrals within our network. So agent to agent, I mean, you know. And of those, 6,500 converted to actual sales. And the referring agent got a percentage of the sale. So it's as simple as that, asking the seller, where are you looking to move? Just ask, you know, early on in the process, whether they take you up on your idea, I know someone in Palm Beach, I know someone in, you know, Hingham, I know someone here. Ask that basic question. One of our members, he has 42 agents in a competing market, and I asked him one question. I said, you have only 42 agents, and yet you have such a high per capita per agent in terms of sales. He said, Mickey, have them ask this simple question, and that's how we get our sales. And he said that he's a broker agent himself, so he found out that the seller was looking to move to California. So he referred that seller to our member in California, in Los Angeles, sent a 3-line email. And 3 months later, that lead turned real, and that seller actually bought a house through that agent. He got a $83,000 check for a 3-line email. That's all. So it's small things like this that matter. And you know, when you talk about pressure, it's going to continue not just this year and the next year. And I'm not just talking about the luxury end. It's going to be across, because you look at the millennials, they've entered their key home buying period. I mean, the oldest millennial was born in 1981. That's 41 years old. The youngest is 1995. That's 27. For the rest of this decade, these guys are going to look to build families, look for homes with more space. So you're going to see that funnel of demand continue. So you want to be there when they make that phone call or they start looking. So keep in mind, and then you've got the silver generation that's passing on. You've got that inventory coming on the market.
Oh, Melissa has that covered.
And then the baby boomers who are right-sizing or downsizing, right? So you've got all these trends accumulating, which means that you're going to see continuous pressure on inventory.
So we know what the market looks like now. We have a sense of what it might look like in the future. Colin and Melissa, give us some tips. What can you tell the audience? What are some tips that you're doing, that you're focusing on, that we should be focused on moving forward here?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I've learned about, as we talk about luxury. the buyers, we all think all clients are very, very fastidious in what they want. They're impatient. They're not reasonable. Wait until you move up into a higher price point. When you talk about the upper end, people that belong to NetJets, or they have their own plane, or they have this, or they have that, I never thought I'd be working with clients like that. And you may say, I don't have clients like that either, but you might next month. They are incredibly impatient. So if they call and they say, I want access, can I see this at 2 o'clock this afternoon? Do whatever you can to move heaven and earth to get them in to see that, or propose an immediate alternative. Can't do today at 2, how about tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Give them something, because they will go to the next person right away who can open that door and get them in this afternoon. They're used to getting what they want. Mickey talked about high-end luxury retail. If they go into the store, it's not available, they're going to call somebody that can get them a private shopper, they're going to get what they want. There's always a workaround. They have a network. They're used to instant gratification. If they want something at a certain price point, and they have all this money and they can afford it, if you can't help them get it, someone will. And I've learned that the hard way, and it's frustrating. But know that about sort of the luxury buyer's mentality. I want it now, help me get it.
And I think to your point too, that they want it now. I have always said that if I don't answer my phone, somebody else will. So when
It's
my
true.
phone rings and I'm in a position where I can't answer my phone, it's like this panic sets
What did
in
I
because
miss?
what did I miss? And so I've always said that if I don't answer, somebody else will. And you're right, they'll just move on. If I don't pick up the phone, they're going to call the next person. It's just the way it is, right?
And Mickey, what can you tell us? What's the one big takeaway for the audience here in your perspective and over all of the luxury portfolio companies? What are the best doing?
I think the best are investing in their agents in terms of education, upskilling. That's my mission at Luxury Portfolio. I joined a year and a half ago, and I found the program was lacking in that area. We want to prepare you, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And you have to understand the codes and the language of your buyers if you're in luxury, or your sellers. I mean, Colin's alluded to that, right? I mean, these guys are incredibly impatient. I mean, you're looking at a Silicon Alley guy who is basically, he's worked on software, and software gives you instant analytics. I mean, these guys are used to getting response like this. And so you have to prepare yourself to be, smart when you walk into a listing and understand that latest Chanel bag. And one comment on the wife's bag can make the difference between you winning that listing or somebody else, right? It's a passing remark. So I think my advice to all the agents in this room is invest in yourself. You've got plenty of tools at Raveis, you've got tools at Luxury Portfolio. Read a lot, go network, knowledge sharing is important. I can tell you, go to events, mingle with people, ask them what works for you. A very simple question. So there's no secret sauce to speak. I'd say curiosity is the number one thing that'll make you successful, because you're open. No one has, I hate to say this, luck plays a lot in life. It really does. We may be prepared, but really good luck is being prepared. And so to me, is what you want to do is be better prepared than what you are right now.
And tell us, how can we better leverage LPI?
Well, I'd say, first of all, get in touch with Jamie, because Jamie knows what we're up to. We've got everything from the marketing tools you need. We've got research. I've come up with this new State of Luxury research report, which is all the stats and all that, helps you with listing presentations. We've got this brand new magazine look and feel. I've changed the texture. I've made it more luxury. If you take a look at this, it's a linen feel to it. It's not just a glossy or matte finish to it. It's linen. Why? Because when you see the luxury shopping bags, you take a look at that texture there. That counts for a lot, right? It's these 5 senses that you're engaging your customers with. And then obviously, I say use the network. We've got, within the leading RE family, we've got about 150,000 agents. In my estimate, the luxury agents are about 10% of that. There are 15,000 agents like you who are smart, who are open to conversations, who want to network, want to share ideas. So I'd say education, research, we've got master classes. I don't want to ramble through the features and all that, but what I'm getting at is basically build up your knowledge base. That is very important. No matter how old you are, if you are positioning yourself as a mere real estate agent, then you're nothing but transactional. But if you upskill yourself with knowledge and all these things that I've mentioned, then you're a trusted advisor on par with a CPA or a lawyer or a professional you go to. And that's how you should position yourself. You're a trusted advisor. And I'm sure you've heard Bill, Chris, and Ryan mention that. That's very important because someone's entrusting their most precious asset, their dreams, to you. You're holding their dreams in your hand.
I agree with that. I think that's great. And what you said about knowledge, do your homework. I study all the time. I know we have to do 2 years continuing education to keep our license, but I study all the time. Before I go in to look at a house or pitch a listing, I try and know, if it's a condo, what is the price per square foot? What have things sold for in the building? If it's a neighborhood, what's the activity been on the street for the last 6 months or a year? Walk in and present to them. Be the knowledgeable agent. Don't be the agent that just wants to sign a listing agreement. Show them that you know the math, the numbers, the statistics. So to Mickey's point, be knowledgeable. Do something. It's a lot of work. Nights at the computers looking at sold listings. But if you have that information and you can fire off statistics, people are impressed. They will learn to trust you in a way that you know what you're talking about. And I think that has a lot of power to it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for all the knowledge. Let's hear it for our panelists. Great people also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Colin.